Welcome back to All Saints Parish Church, Bakewell, for another conversation with John Butler. John, you've mentioned this several times in previous videos, and I let it go. But I recall you saying that in your meditation, when you were being taught at the London School of Meditation, your teacher taught you, "There is nothing in this for me." I thought you might like to just unpack it a bit for us.
There's nothing in this work, that's how it was put, this work. It wasn't long before the practice of meditation in the school was called the work, and as it's I used to attend weekly groups there when the teaching behind meditation was gradually expanded, and as the significance of the work began to sink in, as the significance of the practice began to sink in, and how it related to the world as we'd experienced it up to that point, so it began to make ever more sense to refer to it as the work. And actually, it was, I remember being told, because of course many people when they first start to meditate, they take it pretty lightly and they're not really too conscientious about doing the practice, and it's really just one more of many things to fit into a busy life. But we were told we should. I remember. Yes, as you began to step backwards and get a more detached view of the world, the world also began to seem something more like a play, a theatre, a play, in which we played our parts. Yes, all these sort of phrases about referring to it in a rather theatrical way began to make more sense. We were given the practice of attention. Of course, if you attend to a busy street, you do see it a bit more like a performance. You see people appearing and disappearing. The whole sort of show, the passing show goes on, doesn't it? And ever more of life gradually began to fit into this sort of context. And of course, this is the place where we normally entered into and worked. We went to work to earn money, and what is your work? We'd say to each other, "Oh, I'm a farmer," or "I'm something else." This is the way we thought about it. And gradually we began to think and be told that we should play at the play and work at the work. In other words, put the real work of meditation first. Whereas the worldly way of approaching this was to just play at meditation, just do it as and when we felt like it and really not bother too much, and work at the play. That was right, you see. The trouble with the world was that we work at the play and play at the work. And we were told, now you must play at the play and work at the work. In terms of our worldly work, it's all totally me-centered, isn't it? How much are you going to pay me? What will I get out of it? It's totally me-orientated. You're doing it for your own advantage, aren't you? For your own profit, your own benefit. Well, that's the way the world works. But But lo and behold, when you start to meditate, what happens to me? Well, if we, perhaps to begin with, it is rather me-orientated, and many people, when they first start to meditate, it's to reach some sort of goal for me, such as a quiet mind, or come to some sort of something they want. Well, we can't really do anything, we can't really alter that, because that's the way we are, at least when we start. But gradually, as the work develops, you realize that as you go deeper into meditation, me gets somehow left behind. In fact, that whole mental apparatus that is totally me-centered, my past or my future, or what's it going to mean to me, just gets left behind. And what a relief. We don't actually have to carry it around with us all the time. And we begin to realize what a weight it is. It really is a weight, you know. Me, I, me and mine. It's a real psychological weight upon us. Think of the moments when we forget it. Like when we're going out for a walk, you get interested in something else. What happens? Immediately you feel better, don't you? And then you come back into, oh my God, what's in it for me? So step by step, we discover that me seems to get smaller. And then, after another few years maybe, we began to realize that meditation, in the process of natural expansion, begins to include other people as well. Well, not so much other people, but it just includes, it gets bigger. And as it gets bigger, like opening an umbrella, it covers more, doesn't it? More of the situation. It's not just me. It actually includes more and more and even more. So we begin to get a glimpse of what's called the second line of work, which is with and for others. And that's a big step onwards from what's in it for me. Well, of course, we're still left with our worldly habits, which start almost every sentence with I think, and you think of almost every worldly topic, everything people talk about. It all is centered on I, isn't it? You listen to any conversation, and you can be absolutely sure that most people are talking about I and me, my family, my children, my job. I think we ought to do this and that about the world, you know. I think so-and-so is a complete, you know. It's all me, I, me and mine, isn't it? It's all, and that's what keeps it small. This is what keeps us really in prison, because this is what's called the ego, and the ego creates its own little prison, and here we live our lives as everybody else does their lives, and so we're all separate. We're all like separate, separate cans of beer or something, all banging into each other, but all with our own content, all with our own agenda, our own opinions, our own what I've got. And that's what keeps the world separate and keeps us all in competition and conflict, and which bedevils any human attempt to improve things without first surrendering this death-like grip on me. And then until you begin to really get a taste of what freedom's all about, this is what we do. We hang on to me. We try to get freedom for me. So we go off to the desert or climb a mountain or something, and you get a bit of freedom. Yes, you feel better, but I'm afraid most of us carry our me on our backs. So you get to the top of the mountain and you'll say, this is just what I want. What do you think, Bill? I feel like something to eat or something. So, oh dear, it takes a while to lose the habit of what's in it for me. But the more we progress along this path, which may take many, many years, most of a lifetime really, so deeply ingrained is it. But another thing I like to say is the less of me, the more of God. Although, of course, to begin with, the objective may not be God. The objective may be just a happier me. That's how we are, that's how we are. What can we do about it? We continue until we learn something better.
To be fair to us all, John, we do learn all about I, me and mine, through our growing up and our conditioning, not just in our families, but of course the way the world operates is as these separate beer cans, billiard balls, whatever, pinballs in the game of life, banging against each other. But it's learned. It's deeply learned. Are you suggesting that the practice of meditation is a psychological trick to unlearn, starting with the I?
A psychological trick. Well, I don't think I would have used that phrase, but it came from you, and well, I suppose many things in life are a sort of trick. It's certainly a method. What's in a word? I wouldn't describe it as a trick. I think it's a very straightforward method, but that's it. That's the effect of it, yes. It's a method of releasing. And of course, to begin with, we don't really know what we're releasing. But like anybody who practices any form of relaxation, you don't have to say you're releasing the ego, you just relax and sort of, as a sort of side effect, you become a bit less self-centered, don't you? Well, you may do. You may lie there in a state of blissful relaxation, just thinking about me. It's all too easy to do. But without getting involved in once again explaining the technique of meditation. But if you're taught as I was with a mantra, you're simply given another focus for the mind to attend to, and by doing that, there's less attention given to the usual egocentric thoughts. So you get some relief from them. Psychological trick, well, there's nothing mysterious about it. It's very straightforward really, but it does work.
Don't you think the ego has had a bit of a bad press, John?
Yes, I've often felt rather sorry for the ego. I don't really like references to the discursive mind, as the active mind, as rubbish or as the enemy. Somebody wrote to me yesterday or the day before, an elderly lady, she wanted to, what did she say? She used some quite violent word about trying to control the mind, or it wasn't control, it was some word like that. I wrote back and say, and try to sort of divert her again from such violent practices. You can't really stop or control or get rid of the active mind any more than you can stop or control or get rid of the ego just like that. It's just not real. What you learn to gradually do is simply divert your attention to something other, and then of course it diminishes automatically. You know, I'm sure you're fed up with me telling you to keep your feet on the floor, but it's extraordinary how effective it is if you just keep your feet on the floor, or even better, walk, feeling each footstep on the floor. You'll find before you got a few yards that you're not thinking about me at all. And your mind is attending to your footsteps. You've forgotten all that busy thinking. Well, it may be a trick, a psychological trick, but it's highly effective, isn't it?
Well, this is, of course, your most famous expression, feet on the floor, bottom on the chair. That will be on your grave, of course. Here lies John Butler. Not feet in the earth, bottom in the earth. I have, honestly, I've struggled with this simplest of instructions, feet on the floor, bottom on the chair. I've mentioned it in a previous video, the Common Sense Guide to Meditation, Part 2.
I know we all like to work out what works for us, and why not? I certainly have in my life. I'm much less prepared these days to jump in and offer people advice unless there's a specific question. And always I come back to just this present here. In fact, that's really my answer to all comments and questions that don't immediately seem to require an answer, is simply to come into this third point that includes you and me, the stillness, the invisible presence in which this conversation takes place, and which is really the unquestionable context in which questions take place. And this is the piece of it. In fact, really the completeness of what our incompleteness produces in the form of questions. So really, for those who come to rest in this presence, find that the answer to every question is that there is no question, because the question itself is dissolved in the unquestionable presence. The situation is complete. Who is it that asks these questions? Of course, the bit that's separate, the bit that isn't present.
If you've read a few of the what's called non-duality books, or watched a few of the non-duality videos, you start to pick up the lingo, John. So, as you say, who's asking?
Well, again, I personally, because at one time I did when I was just repeating what I'd heard other people say, but now that I'm sort of speaking a bit more from myself, I don't use words so much like fantasy or illusion, because I feel, at the time these things are real to us, they are real to us. I don't think it's always very kind to use these words like fantasy or illusion, sort of, for people that aren't ready for them. Because of course, for most of us, most of our lives, it's very, very real indeed, isn't it? I got a vicar friend who wrote to me this morning, and again, I can't just remember but there's some quite well-known phrase about death that's sometimes used at funerals, something like, death isn't anything, or something like that. But of course, when you're going through the agonies of death, it's not a kind thing to say. It's very much an all-consuming tragedy. I think these words need using carefully, with due consideration of whoever's listening. The world is illusion, but my God, it's real enough when you're dealing with it, isn't it? If that's where you are.
It certainly is. I've had a scan this week, actually, where are we? Friday, just 2 days ago, which will reveal, I'm sure, the state of my organs. And as I lay there, very perfectly comfortable and peaceful, I just had this thought, I know I'm not my body. I'll be very interested to see what they find out. But it didn't perturb me at all, because there was just this peaceful clarity that I am the observer of the body having a scan. Nothing serious, by the way, just a routine. So would you say, John, that regular practice of meditation simply trains yourself to be less concerned about the I thought, the me, I, me, my?
Well, again, I would put it in a slightly more positive way now, by introducing something better. Because that's really what our instinct is in life. Not to, it's really, you could say it's a sort of greed. We're always looking for a better experience, a better sense of meaning, a better, more fulfilling something. And that is the process of meditation. That by discovering something better, we simply find it easier to let go. What, in contrast, seemed less better, seemed less good, more. We just simply, very, very gently, naturally, grow all the time into something better. You see? So the restrictions that limited our reception of good things, whether you call it the ego or not, gradually relaxes, opens up, and you discover more of the abundance that awaits us in spirit. The trouble with this world, the world of ego, is that there's always something lacking. No matter how much money we've got, or how many of the world's pleasures and goods, there's always a loneliness, a yearning, there's something that isn't fulfilled. Often something very deep that's hardly realized, really, because very often in life we sort of, we throw ourselves in with such vigor into the outer world that the inner the deep inner satisfactions don't always get much of a look in, except in our darker moments, when someone dies, for example, and we find ourselves bereft. It's very often it's death that shakes us into a deeper consideration of life. But the direction of meditation, and this may take many years, is ever greater, ever more total fulfillment. So that now, in the end of my life, there's one word that seems to mean more to me than anything: complete. I don't want anything, because here now, just allowing this presence to be, it sort of takes me over. Home, complete. So where's John Butler? I've all but forgotten him. But I do so with a fondness in my voice and a twinkle in my eye. He served me well. He was my old friend. And you know, here we are, we haven't got much to, it seems we haven't got much to say today. And I'm aware that thousands of people will probably watch this video. You know, I'm totally confident to just sit here with my mouth closed in silence and trust that that is probably of more value to our viewers or listeners than anything I can say or do.